The fantasy world that J.R.R. Tolkien created consists of countless mythological and even historical tales that touch our hearts, as we've probably heard them in a similar light before. The creation of the universe, Ea, occurs when the supreme deity Eru Ilúvatar encourages the Ainur, who serve as spiritual beings, to perform a magnificent symphony based on themes introduced by Ilúvatar himself. The metaphysical music contains the history and fate of all things. When one of the Ainur, Melkor, greedily decides to insert his own motifs into the theme, chaos is created. Ilúvatar responds not by undoing the evil, but by introducing new themes which transform the chaos and make the great play even more impactful. As we learn from Tolkien, evil is not able to create anything new. It can only distort and destroy what has been made by the forces of good. Furthermore, evil is simply the perversion of goodness. Tolkien once expressed that British mythology lacked cohesive depth compared to Greek or Norse mythology. The British Isles were influenced by the Celts, the Romans, then the Anglo-Saxons, and finally the Normans. Tolkien deeply admired the legends, language, and characters of the Anglo-Saxons, as he himself was a professor on this subject at Oxford University. The Rohirrim, for example, are heavily influenced by the Anglo-Saxons. Their armor, weapons, traditions, and tales mirror them in an astounding way. Theoden is based on the Old English word Beodin, meaning king, while Riddermark can be linked to Old English rider and Old High German marker, meaning borderland. After all, the Anglo-Saxons originated from Germanic tribes, and Tolkien was an expert on languages. J.R.R. Tolkien's philosophy teaches us that all people are constantly challenged by their inner demons and ambitions. The fall to greed is a recurring theme throughout the story. Not only figures like Gollum are corrupted by it, even the proud people of Númenor, the mightiest of the kingdoms of men, was swallowed by the ocean as punishment from the gods. This, of course, is also the story of Atlantis, first described by Plato in the 4th century BCE.
It is likely that we go to our doom.
Jumping from Greek influences to relatively modern times, both Mordor and Isengard show how Tolkien viewed the growing industrialization of the late 19th and early 20th centuries. The destruction of Fangorn Forest emphasizes the replacement of the old world, full of life, with a modern era where machines and ambition rule over a desolate place. At least in this regard, the author of The Lord of the Rings and the composer Richard Wagner share a common motive. In Wagner's The Ring of the Nibelung, the same work critics claim Tolkien took ideas from, the corruption of nature and the dawn of a new age play a pivotal role, both presented with a subtle warning to the audience. The Lord of the Rings would feel a lot different had the various characters not been written with such great care. Whether side or main characters, everyone has their own instinctive role to play. However, we must not forget that characters like Frodo and Aragorn undergo classical hero journeys. In this regard, the Old English poem Beowulf probably influenced Tolkien's story more than any other manuscript. A heroic warrior named Beowulf comes to the aid of King Hrothgar of Denmark. Hrothgar's mead hall, Heorot, is being terrorized by a monster called Grendel. Beowulf fights and kills Grendel, then later defeats Grendel's vengeful mother in an underwater battle. Years later, Beowulf becomes king of the Geats. In his old age, he faces a final challenge, a dragon threatening his kingdom. He defeats the dragon, but is mortally wounded in the process. Beowulf dies a hero, and his people mourn the loss of their brave king. Beowulf was written in Anglo-Saxon times, at the very end of the first millennium. It's a beautiful mix of Norse mythology and Germanic heroic tradition. As mentioned before, Tolkien thought there were too few engaging English legends and actually intended The Lord of the Rings to become a national treasure of fantasy. The interest in Norse mythology definitely didn't stop there. Middle-earth is the direct translation of Midgard or Midgard, which refers to our planet Earth in Nordic tales. Valinor, meanwhile, is inspired by Asgard, home of the gods, yet still connected to the mortal world. Even Mirkwood, home to Thranduil and Legolas, appears in Norse mythology with the same name, describing a forest between Asgard and Muspelheim. Since we're already talking about names and translations, it's interesting to point out that the two Elvish languages, Quenya, used by the High Elves of the First Age who went to Valinor, and Sindarin, developed after their return to the continent, are mostly based on Finnish and Welsh. Languages are made with words. Characters are made with myths. Gandalf is closely similar to Odin, the All-Father, god of wisdom, war, and magic. In the mortal world, Odin liked to appear as a grey-bearded wanderer with immense knowledge. He hung himself from Yggdrasil, the cosmic tree, for 9 days and nights. The reward for this sacrifice was more knowledge and understanding of runes. Gandalf was a Maya who served the Valar. His horse Shadowfax was considered the lord of horses, blessed with supernatural speed and intelligence. Odin, on the other hand, rode the magical 8-legged horse Sleipnir, capable of traveling between worlds. Gandalf is one of the few characters where a direct inspiration was confirmed by the author. A more vague comparison would be between Aragorn and Alfred the Great, the 9th century king who led his people from exile to unity. Alfred isn't the only candidate, though, as the literal title, The Return of the King, sounds very much like the King Arthur tale, with Andúril being quite similar to Excalibur. Additionally, the tale could be considered truly British, as it is suggested that King Arthur fought the Saxons. Meaning, like Aragorn, he is the heir to a glorious past.
You're late.
A wizard is never late, Frodo Baggins. Nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to.
It's only been hinted at so far, but J.R.R. Tolkien was very much a devout Catholic, and his faith meant a lot to him. Christian themes, and even Bible stories like Cain and Abel, possibly represented by Sméagol and Daegol, might have made their way into the story. But it would be far from the truth to call The Lord of the Rings a religious work. The nostalgic feeling of home and the inevitable triumph of light over evil are universal themes of hope in every human life. There is one character in particular who represents true goodness more than anyone else, Samwise Gamgee. The Hobbit doesn't know much about the world, only through songs, as he has never been far from home. He doesn't strive for power or wealth. He just wants a peaceful life with a beautiful garden. Sam joins the adventure to protect his friend Frodo and to finally get a glimpse of the world. He stays true in his heart throughout the entire journey, even as he is forced to fight the forces of evil. Samwise Gamgee represents countless people who have fought and still fight on the battlefield. Tolkien himself fought in World War I, which greatly impacted his view of the world. The land of Mordor does indeed resemble the horrifying landscapes of trench warfare. Young men who in their hearts want nothing more than to return home to their families, maybe even have a big garden one day. Tolkien met many Sams during his time in the British Army. Some of them didn't come back, but it was their courage that reshaped the world.